Welcome to another edition of A Week of Mass Shootings. There were 10 mass shootings this past week from January 15th through January 21st. There weren't any on the 15th or 16th, so we'll start on the 17th in Kansas City, Missouri, where 6 were injured. This is the first one for Kansas City this year. It happened at the Crown Center Mall, and it was an argument between two groups. And a security guard and a bystander returned fire on the groups. It happened around 5:45 p.m. and all the victims were aged in their late teens to 50 years old. Also on January 17th in Las Vegas, Nevada, 2 were killed and 2 injured. And this is the first one for Las Vegas this year. And Las Vegas had 3 mass shootings last year. So they're starting off the year on a bad note. This happened on the north end of the Vegas Strip around 5:30 p.m. near the Strat Hotel and Casino. And this was basically an altercation between two groups. On January 18th in San Francisco, 1 was killed and 4 were injured. And this was the first one for San Francisco this year. All the victims were adults. 1 male was killed and 4 females were injured. And this happened in the Tenderloin area. And it happened around 2:30 a.m. And the police are calling it an ongoing war between the Hondurans. And this one might be downgraded to a shootout instead of a mass shooting. So this one I'm going to put down as gang-related because the way it reads, it's a gang-related shooting. So the FBI wouldn't call it a mass shooting at all. Okay, January 19th in Baltimore, 3 were killed and 1 injured. This is the first one for Baltimore this year. All the victims were adult males. It happened around 8 p.m. And it was basically an argument that happened at an auto repair business. On January 20th in Coraopolis, Pennsylvania, 1 was killed and 3 injured. And this is the first one for that city as well. It happened at the Steel Shaker Bar, where 3 adult males and 1 female were the victims. 35-year-old Anthony Johnson Jr. was one that was killed. And this was basically a fight that turned into a shootout. Happened at 2 a.m. and it was a bar, so I'm sure everybody was drunk. All the individuals involved have been identified, but it's unclear if any arrests have been made at this time. And Coraopolis is just east of the Pittsburgh airport, just so you have an idea of where that city is. January 20th in Palm Bay, Florida, 3 were killed and 2 injured. This is the first one for that city as well this year. Happened at the Woodlake Village apartment homes. And, okay, who was killed was 60-year-old Angela Suglam, 79-year-old Stephen Suglam, and 31-year-old Lisa Suglam. And there was a teenager and an adult male that were injured in this. And the suspect was Tayshawn Clive Taylor. He's 26 years old, and he was arrested. They're calling this one a domestic violence situation. It happened at 9:30 p.m., and that's about all we have on that one right now. I've tried to find pictures for that one, but they haven't released any photos at this time on that one. So January 20th, Plantation, Florida, 1 was killed and 3 injured. First one for Plantation this year. It happened outside of Best Buy. And 2 of the victims were innocent bystanders. And basically what happened is a group of 4 people were exiting the store when they were targeted by 2 other people that were lying in wait. And they opened fire on them. And 2 from that group of 4 were struck and 2 completely innocent bystanders were hit. And the shooters fled and the victims are not cooperating with the police. So they clearly knew who it was, and they just don't want to tell the police. On January 21st in the Bronx, New York, 1 was killed and 3 injured. It's the first one for the Bronx this year. The victims were all males, aged 23 to 52 years old. Happened at 6:10 a.m. And they were all shot in a building on White Plains Road near East 231st Street. And the reason for the shooting is unknown. Also on January 21st in Katy, Texas, 3 were killed and 2 injured, and this is the first one for Katy this year. They were all adults, and at least 1 was a female. This was a party that had 10, 20 people at it. Happened at 2:15 a.m. All the victims were in their 20s. And the party was at a short-term rental home. And it started after an altercation. And it shows dozens of shots were fired. And if you pay attention to the mass shootings, you'll notice that a lot of those Airbnb type places, it doesn't say what, it just says this was a short-term rental home, but basically like an Airbnb. There are often, I'm not going to say a lot, but there are often mass shootings at these Airbnbs, or shootings in general happen often at these Airbnbs. And I even read a story on how for a while there, everybody was saying, if you own an Airbnb, it's the way to go, this and that. And there's stories coming out now that are saying it's not a good idea to be owning these Airbnbs. So also January 21st in Tinley Park, Illinois, 4 were killed and 0 injured. It was the first one for Tinley Park this year and the second mass murder of 2024. 59-year-old Majeda Kassem, 25-year-old halema Kassem, 25-year-old Zahia Kassem, and 24-year-old Hanan Kassem. They were all females, and they were all killed by an adult male that was just listed as a family member right now. So I didn't get a name on him, which will probably come out in the next couple days. And this one's listed as a domestic violence family annihilation. Happened at 11:30 in the morning, and the suspect was taken into custody. And this Tinley Park is a southwest suburb of Chicago. Anytime I see a mass shooting in Illinois, I look to see what its proximity to Chicago is, because 9 times out of 10, it's going to be within a half-hour drive of downtown Chicago. So this is the graph as it was last week after we had 12 mass shootings, adding in the 10 from this week, and here's our new graph. Large parties tie for the most with arguments. Drive-bys come in third, tied with domestic violence situations. Reasons unknown is the 5th. And that one will probably rise a lot, because a lot of times they don't give any reasons of why these things happen, because they just don't know. And we have bars, spree shootings, gang involvement, school shootings, all tied with 1. And on the graph, it just shows the 1, but there's a whole bunch of them that have just 1. So we're at 22 on the year, which is the lowest number we've had at this time in the last 4 years. This is a weekly video, so if you like this type of content, hit that like button, leave your thoughts in the comments, and consider subscribing. And I'll catch you next week.